Hello, everybody. Welcome back to One Leeds. Welcome back to the debrief. Is this live? I have just seen on the chat. It is live. We've gone early, very early today because we all have commitments, or I do, and maybe Brownie does. He's got a chicken curry coming up in the slow cooker, if you must know, later on tonight. And Brentford are playing Fulham as well, so I'm sure a few of you might want to watch that one as well. So we thought we'd be, a little bit more conservative with our time. So I hope you're all doing fantastically well. Presume you're not. After the weekend, I had to take a day off. I was going to upload on Sunday, and then I thought, nah, I can't bothered. Leeds have ruined my weekend again. And we'll get into it because a certain individual was down there watching it as well. Is this real live? You were the one I saw, Dave. Yes, it is. Come on, Mackie G. Hello, evening all. Aronson is the worst player. We're back. Oh, damn, perfect timing. Let's get in to this fraught negativity. And guys, if you want some bonus content, Generation Leeds was uploaded today on the Patreon account. Me and my dad waffling on about the current situation at Leeds. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Mr. David Brown and Mr. Gabe, how are we doing? We all right, boys?
Negative on together.
That's it. I was actually gonna say Gabe's second name, but I still can't pronounce it. So for some reason, I called you Mr. Gabe.
My second name.
Yeah. Because I said initially, hello, David Brown, and then I said Gabe, and then I.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, surname.
You just woke up, Gabe. You just woke up.
just rolled out of bed. No, I'm thinking about Brownie's curry.
Yeah, that must be a mad thing to think about. Brownie's about to have curry, and you just woke up.
No, I've been working for about 6 hours.
Yeah. So, boys, let's get into the thick of it. Michael Pollard says, "Hi, Conor. Got to cry and Willie combined until what? Yeah, sorry, Cree and Willie combined until Rodders gets back." Hi, Conor. Hope you all hoping for one on Saturday. Yeah, loads to get into today, lads. Brownie, how was West London? You presumably came back, didn't you? You didn't stay over and all those. You went Fulham, then you went Chelsea, but you did come back, didn't you?
Yeah, we never do well down in London. It's a bit of a running theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Palace away this year. Chelsea we still got to go back down there to Arsenal. Fulham last week. I'm getting sick of the place, to be honest. But it's always a difficult place to go, no matter how. It made me chuckle a little bit in the week by saying it's a really good time to play Chelsea. Russia. They're not doing well, and that's not well either. So
here we go again with this.
Is he back?
No,
he is. I can see him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, his eyes just
I've never
like a shark.
I've never gone
any. I love it. He always gets really agitated with it.
It winds me up.
Go on, Brownie.
In the week, I saw a lot of people, and myself included, thinking maybe it's a good time to play Chelsea. Potter's under pressure. They've not won many games. They're struggling for form. But then you get back to reality and think we've won 3 league games since we last beat. They've got an embarrassment of riches, and like the comment before says, we're missing Rodrigo, we're missing Sinisteri, and when a team like ourselves is losing players like that, it really hurts us, and you can see it. I thought the Fulham game, it's going to sound daft because we had so many chances to score, but there seems to be we just look toothless up top a little bit. We look a little bit lightweight. We don't look like scoring many goals at the minute. Which is a real concern for me. We don't really. I saw a stat with Melier was joint with how many players got a shot on target at the weekend. That's our goalkeeper. When you're seeing stats like that, you've got a problem. Harrison, I'm sure we'll get on individual players.
Here's my first note.
If he was a Deliveroo driver, his delivery would be 1 star, wouldn't it? Let's be right at the minute. That's where I am.
The Brownie I hoped would show up today.
That's where I am with him at the minute. And I think he flourished in a Bielsa system. Whereas we've seen it the opposite. I think Rodrigo was hampered in a BL system, and now in a Marsh system, we saw him really come to fruition, getting more space, getting more opportunities, and he really thrived under Marsh. Whereas I think Harrison's gone the other way. I think the system that Marsh was playing with, it all congested, has really hampered him, and he just looks shot to pieces at the minute. For whatever reason, he just doesn't look the Jack Harrison of 2 years ago. I see people saying on his day, he's a really good player. I haven't seen that day
When
for
is
a
his
while.
day? Yeah.
I haven't seen that day for a while with him. The striker we spent 35 million on, I've said it before, it's not his fault. If we had 35 million to spend, it should be getting spent on tried and tested in the Premier League at this current point where we are.
Danny Ings.
Exactly. Stuff, something like that. West Ham went and got a Danny Ings. He scored 2 goals last weekend to win 2-0, whatever it was. Well, they ended up winning more, didn't they? But he scored the first 2 goals against Forest. I don't understand why, if you've got 35 million in a bank account, you're spending it on the future when our future could be the Championship. It just doesn't make sense for me as a business model. It really doesn't. And that's not anything against Jorginho. In the future,
No,
I'm
it's not.
sure he'll be an unbelievable player. I'm not saying that. People, but that is what we've got. Bamford, I mean, if he was a horse, he'd have been put down. We've got him. We've got Jorginho, and we've got Rodrigo coming on for 15, well, not even 15 minutes. Accrington 3-0 up, and our top scorer's injured. So all we have got is Jorginho down the middle. And if I'm being honest, I don't even think that's his best position. No. It feels a little bit like square pegs in round holes again. He seems to me like, I think when he came on at Old Trafford, he was getting the ball out wide and drifting in, and you could see a bit of Willy Gnonto, Sinisterra like to his how he was playing, but he's having to play down the middle. Just a bit disillusioned, to be honest, with it all, mate. To be honest, we're now fighting for our life again. It's the second season in a row where we've not had a proper number 9 down the middle, and it's killing us again. I remember saying to you, Conor, after the Brentford game, end of last season, we've got away with one this season. We're not having a number 9. We have to address it. And here we are, March of the following season, out of the relegation zone on goal difference without a proper number 9. It's absolutely barbaric that we're in this situation.
Yeah, and we've gone over on the channel about this multiple times, haven't we, Brownie? Even before Gabe was here, about just the negligence of the board and the arrogance of the board. But you know, it's on a different level, really. But I think Gabe was seeing now as well a real upturn in the bottom 5. And I was having a chat with someone over the weekend, and I was saying, look, we keep talking about Everton, but at one point at the weekend, Bournemouth was 16th. You know, Leeds and Everton were down in there. There is a massive possibility now, you know, that it's not only Leeds just looking at Everton every weekend now. It's Bournemouth, it's Southampton. Southampton picking up a win this weekend. Bournemouth so close to getting something at Arsenal. Bournemouth beating Wolves away last week. The teams in and around us are picking up little points, and Leeds have got to start this momentum train at some point, haven't they?
Yeah, 6 points separating 12th from 20th. It's a couple of different interpretations of that. Either it's a really competitive league or it's competitively poor. I think for me, just to kind of go off what Brownie just said, and maybe add to it a bit, our team is a collection of almost half pieces and what ifs, right? So I was looking at after the match, I came away thinking this one game of football sums up our entire season. A match that was there for the taking, chances not taken, the final pass, the final ball, the final bit of quality just not there. Players playing well in moments and then some errors here and there, or having constraints upon their abilities that don't allow us to get that moment of inspiration that we need. It just feels as though, like, if we just go down the line, I know I've done a lot of positive talking about the American boys, but I'm going to criticize them here a little bit. So Aronson's a great example of not only our season, but our sort of squad. Is you see flashes of good things, and then at the end, there's no final product, right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And Adams is the same way in one respect. He's great at breaking up play. We know that, one of the best. Fantastic. And this isn't me having a go at Tyler Adams. But if there's pressure on him to play progressive passes, or if he's being converged upon by a number of midfielders trying to squeeze him off the ball, he's going to lose the ball, or there's not a simple outlet. It's going to go out. We have this collection of players. McKennie's another example. We've seen that he's good at slowing down the play, right? Sometimes to the detriment of the attack, but good at giving some order to what has been a very chaotic system. But the end product hasn't been there. It's had a couple chances to score, hasn't done it. So what we really miss, and when I look at all the teams in the bottom 5, we don't have a talismanic player. We just don't. We don't have anybody.
Pablo Hernandez, isn't it? It's Pablo Hernandez.
Right. And Willie Nyantos are like closest thing to it. And I know that some people are wondering why Grazia's sort of taken him off, but I think that it's a lot of pressure for a 19-year-old. And And I mean, if he goes through this run of results, not playing well, and the manager doesn't protect him, which I think that's what's happening here, it can shatter his confidence as well. And we just don't have that player.
On that game, I'm glad you've brought it up, because I didn't want to. It's been on my mind for a few weeks, and the Fulham game in midweek really highlighted it. And then, because obviously at Fulham we played McKennie, Adams, and Rocker, and I personally thought Rocker was the better of the three at what they were trying to do, and then he's dropped for the Chelsea. I thought Adams was. It's interesting that you've mentioned that, because his passing, and I'm not saying it since Marshall's gone, I'm not throwing that in there, I'm just saying his passing of late has been nothing short of diabolical. Like, we can't get up the pitch.
He can't do anything when he's pressed. When he's pressed, he goes back or side to side. He can't do anything. It's not. He's never been good.
He's been my favourite player this year, Tyler Adams. Me too. Like you say, he breaks up play. He gets stuck, and it's exactly what we've kind of missed over recent. He's like Calvin Phillips' role, but the passing, it's that final. We get into good areas, and that final passing. It's not just Adams. I'm throwing that at all of them. That final ball, when we're in good areas, is poor. We're getting into really good areas, and then that final pass, it's just not there. I mean, I think defensively, we've looked better against Southampton. The Fulham game, we kept them to long shots. I mean, 2 of them flew into the top corner from 30 yards. Sometimes you've got to hold your hands up and say, good strikes. We don't seem to be getting broken down, or the chances seem to be there at will. I know Chelsea hit the bar, and they're going to do. They've spent £500 million in the last transfer window. They've got good players, but we got beat by a set piece. So from that aspect, we're not giving up 3s and 4s, and we don't look weak at the back anymore. I think Firpo has been a lot better. Wober at centre back has been really good. Him and Koch, the pairing, I think, has been good. Just going forward, that last pass just seems so bad. I mean,
for me, it's still chaotic, and that's not down to Grazia. I think it's almost embedded in the players now. You know, it still was a chaotic and frantic style of play, even under Bielsa. We know that it was rock and roll football, wasn't it? And that continued with Marsh in a different way, a different style. But for me, you see, even Somerville, you know, a lot to learn for me, a lot to learn. Somerville in these positions where it's just calm, composed. That's what you need, and it's littered across the squad. It's almost like a curse. You come to Leeds and suddenly it's frantic. And even when Grazia is trying not to employ that style of football, the front players, the offensive players, are still. It's almost like calm heads in difficult situations, you know, and I'm really struggling to see Chelsea once again, like you said, Brownie. We're getting ourselves into great transitional moments where we've beaten Chelsea. You know, it's maybe 4-on-4 or whatever it may be, and honestly, I'm sat there and I never get out of my chair.
Right, I know it's not going to come off. Yeah,
I know what's coming. I know one of them is going to. It'll be a wrong pass. It'll be hit too hard. It'll be hit too lightly. It'll be a wrong decision made, and it is becoming a huge problem. That's what. By the way, for one of the at the time, I think form wise, Everton were the lowest scorers in the last 10, just as a comparative. And that they've now scored 4 goals in 5. Half of those goals from set pieces. We've scored 1 in 5.
Touching on that, Conor, with the goals, and this is what I was kind of trying to get at with saying we're a bit toothless. Look at our offensive players. They're all very similar. Aronson, Somerville, Nonto. They're very slight. They're very tricky player. They're not going to bully anyone.
No.
Right.
In the greatest will in the world, they're not going to. Our number 9 at the minute, he's not. He's a technically likes to bounce off and glide and do all the tricks and things. Where are goals coming from? You look at that team that started at Chelsea. I mean, Rutter's not scored for the club. Aronson's last goal was probably against Chelsea. Somerville had that purple patch before the break, not scored a goal since. Harrison played. I mean, he pops up with the goals here and there. If you look throughout the team, McKennie and Adams, no goals between them.
Brownie, do you not feel like this is? It feels like they've, in the same way that sort of a lot of our results this season have been like almosts or good try. It seems like the assembling of this squad is the same way, that we have a bunch of players. If we had a central, like a talismanic player, and I hate to just use that buzzword, who could bring it all together, because like Aronson's not the guy that's going to, he leads our side in chance creation at 36 chances this season. That shows you how dire we've been in terms of having because he's not been good in the second half of the season at all. And like, when I think about it, how many out and out wingers do we have who are young, lack composure in front of goal, just to your point, right? And who are too easily pushed off the ball. Gnonto's not that easily pushed off the ball, but he's also not going to win anything in the air either.
No.
It does seem like we have redundancy in certain positions, and it 100% agree with what you said earlier. And I want to make sure to emphasize this point, because I don't blame the player. 35 million quid for Jorginho, who is not either a chance creator for us or a chance finisher for us.
It's all just it's poor buying
scouting.
When it comes to profiles of players that you need in certain systems.
Too many similar players.
It's poor profiling of players, and that's littered throughout the side. You know, it really, really is. I think probably when it comes to profiles, you probably look at Adams, and that was the perfect one, really. You know, replacing Calvin Phillips.
I remember going to Old Trafford, and that seems a lifetime ago. The 2-2 draw at Old Trafford. We've played 5 games since then. There's only Junior Firpo with a goal in them 5 games.
By the way, he's probably been the best player. I think he's been really, really
that's
good.
That's nothing against Junior Firpo, but if our only goal scorer in the last 5 games is our left back,
out of favour left back,
then there's a massive issue. Massive issue, and it has to change quickly, because the games that are coming up, the next 5 games, there's a few winnable games in there, and they have to be wins.
I think it's make or break, because I think potentially, you're going to get some sides. Maybe, you're seeing sides in the rounders now, some getting wins here and there, picking up draws here and there. I think there's going to be a bit of a gap pulling, and that could be Leeds. That definitely could be Leeds. Of course it could, but Leeds need to keep, on track or in excess of these sides. And I think these next 5 games for Leeds United, I think it's going to be telling. I think it's going to be whether we're staying up or going down, because I think, as I said, you're going to get one of them potentially breaking away.
Conor, I'm really worried because there's one thing that really separates, because it's not points, right? And it's a weird Premier League this season, and anybody below that 11th spot can beat anybody and has beaten anybody else. So on one hand, that's cause for hope, right? You can say, all right, it's a weird league. All we have to do is turn around some results, because we can say, well, we've only won X amount of games of football this season, but so have all these other teams, right? So it's anybody's game in that sense. What worries me when I look at Bournemouth, right? No special player there for me, so that doesn't worry me. Southampton, I mean, we saw James Ward-Prowse, right? The ability to I wouldn't do for somebody who could step up and bang a free kick in on this side. Well, we're lucky. It wasn't until Jack Harrison skied that free kick that I realized he was in the match. West Ham have players like Declan Rice, who I don't rate at over 100 million pounds, but I still think is a really, really good player.
You've never said that before, mate.
Yeah, it's never come up. But although other people are saying it now, I saw Simon Jordan said it, Gary Neville said it. I was like, I'll pretend that was the first one. Antonio's there. Even Danny Ings is right there. So they have some players who are tested and are capable of big moments. Leicester, Maddison, Iheanacho, Nottingham Forest, I'm not sure who they have, but
West Ham as well. You're missing Bowen and Ben Rama.
Right, right. So, I mean, who do we have? I would take any of those players in our team right now.
And does that come back once again to what we've all said about, me included, us fans overrating certain people in this in this side? It probably does come back to that a little bit.
I think there's a little bit of that. I also think that, and I'm not just going to do that thing where we have to blame the board and the scouting and all this stuff, but there are players that when you play them in certain ways and play them with certain profiles of players that are very good. Tyler Adams for the USA plays with a progressive midfielder in Yunus Musa, right? So he doesn't have to make these progressive passes, right? Up and down the side. I mean, you wouldn't count on Brendan Aronson to be getting on the end of. I mean, it just feels like they put together this side naively. They've over-indexed on youth, over-indexed on potential, and over-indexed on the ability to play together with a sort of linchpin player that we don't have. So I'm a little bit worried because where does the moment of inspiration come? So far, it's come from Willy Gnonto, who's 19 years old and hasn't been playing particularly well the last number of weeks. That's not a takedown of Gnonto. I just don't think he's been quite as sharp as he was earlier, and I don't think that's controversial.
Your Gnonto, your Somerville, your Aronson, your technical players would thrive if they had a big bully number 9 in front of them, winning flick-ons, holding the ball up, bringing them into play. You could then have them players running off. We just don't have that focal point, and it's killed us for 2 seasons. It really has killed us. I don't believe if we had an out-and-out number 9 playing for the last 2 seasons, we're not in a relegation battle either year because of how poor them teams down there are. We're level on points with them, and we haven't got a focal point in the team. You've just put a focal point into that team. If in January you got 35 million, you go and buy an out-and-out striker who's going to hold the ball up, win flick-ons, you'd pull away.
Yeah.
We'd pull away. And I just look at the fixtures coming up over the next 2 weeks. This weekend especially, it's a home game. Brighton, great team. But when you look at the teams around and who they're playing, Bournemouth have Liverpool, Southampton go to Man United, Everton, Brentford, so the point can be there. Forest away at Tottenham. We have to start making these games and create a gap.
Yep.
We have to start winning games, and I think it's 4 of the next 6 games are at home.
Who do you think steps up and gets us the points, though? Last season we had Rafinha, who whenever he's in the box, I counted on, even though he didn't, it's not like he had like 20 plus goals, but like you count on him to score and run past somebody. Rodrigo's down.
Okay, that's where
we have that's going to do it.
That's where, you know, when you turn down money for Jack Harrison in January when Leicester are coming in for him, you almost have that confidence in him that he's going to be able to step up to the mark. And there was loads of people telling me last season that it was Jack Harrison who kept us up as much as Rafinha. Well, if that is the case, then in this moment, once again, you've got to get someone like Jack Harrison, who's 27 next. And he's been in this side for 5 years. He's seen the ups, he's seen the downs. He's got to step up because we know he's got the technical ability. But then I do question, has Jack Harrison got the technical ability? Because I see a wonderful first touch. For 5 years, I've seen shocking delivery when it's come to Jack Harrison. They'll get it right every now and again. It'll be a peach. But overall, it's been shocking. That's not
when he gets in position to deliver it, Conor. How often do you see him just put his head down and get dispossessed because he doesn't know where he is and how many people are around him?
I see it in the comment. I see comments. There's one comment there saying Chris Wood was shocking yesterday. I'm not saying go and get a quick. By the way, the first goal came from Chris Wood holding the ball up, laying it off, and that was the goal. And that is what we're missing: someone holding the ball up. What I'm saying is, for 35 million, you can get a very good Chris Wood.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? What was Chris Wood?
Yeah.
10 million? 10 million, I think they paid for him from Newcastle.
There's Gikores at Fulham, at Coventry, who apparently Leeds scouts were looking at last week, which is hilarious in itself because it's someone who we need right now, a little bit of a target man in the Championship who's doing well. But yeah, overall, I think, and this is Anto Garland's bang on, but how many times, Anto, do we say this throughout the season with him? He's got
professional
zero
footballer.
Gabe, I will say I do understand the confidence element because I think confidence is huge in football. I do think it overrides so many different factors, but the amount of times Jack Harrison, as we say, his body language is, you know, head down, all this sort of stuff. Like, you know, it's a continuation for Jack. And as to what you were saying there about players stepping up, it's got to be your senior players. It's got to be your Bamfords. It's got to be your Harrison. But for me, even last season, I always thought we've got a chance because Rafinha's going to create a moment, or he's going to take 3 defenders out, and then you might have a Bamford slipping in, or, you know, the players in and around Rafinha were nowhere near on his level, but he'd take defenders out. He'd produce moments of magic, like Brownie referred to in that Norwich game, where he takes it round the goalkeeper and puts it on a plate for Gelhardt, you know, cool and composed in those situations. And Brownie, the issue is now, it's having that person in those final third moments who's gonna really just take those moments. And Rafinha was that player.
He was, yeah, and I don't think. I mean, Rafinha for me was irreplaceable. I mean, he's playing for Barcelona. He scored last night. He 1-0. He scored the winner, the top of La Liga. He's starting the World Cup for Brazil. I don't think some people who are going, oh, he didn't do. We stayed up because of him.
100%.
There's nothing will change my mind. And that the moment, the goal at Brentford, like you said, the goal, the setting up, he dragged games by the scruff of its neck at times. And I just don't see that at the minute. And like I say, we've got Aronson, we've got Somerville, we've got Nonto, very technical, very good players. If you put a target man in front of them, they're just instantly better. Because they've got someone taking that hit. They've got someone holding the ball for them and they can do their runs around him. It's just, I mean, the people in the comments as well, we're not thick as fans. You can clearly see we're crying out for a number 9 and we have been for 2 years now. Yep. 2 years. It's really that simple for me. If I was in charge of I'd just go out and buy a proper target man.
Well, Brownie, they bought Jorginho for only 20 million quid less than we sold Rafinha for.
I mean, it was nearly the same price as Philip. Do you know what I mean? The transfer prices just don't make sense to me. And we've had a show on that in itself. You could do a whole episode on transfer fees. But I just think you put a Mitrovic in our team, someone who bullies.
If only.
You put someone who bullies defenders, who occupies 2 defenders, wins headers, wins fouls. Imagine a Somerville and a Nonto around that.
Well, I mean,
it's really that simple.
Well, Kareem,
really that simple.
I know what Kareem's saying here, and I'm seeing a lot of this in the chat. And we don't have another alternative, unfortunately, but we miss Rodrigo. I agree, and I think it gets to a point now though where Rodrigo, when he's come back from injury, we're all expecting so much of him, but naturally, when Rodrigo's come back from injury, he takes 2, 3, 4 weeks to get back into it. We've always seen that. We've said that on here with Rodrigo. So Phillips used to come back into the side. He's seamlessly fit and he'd be brilliant. But Rodrigo, Bamford, they've always taken time to get, and we need players back in the side now. You know, it's not. It's
Sinistera too. The guy seems like he's made of glass, and he's not just gonna run back onto the pitch and be as good as we've seen him in a couple matches. You know.
Yeah,
it's right. I mean, we've got 2 games before the international break. Brighton and Wolves away, and we need points because then the first game back after the international break is Arsenal away. It don't get much easier. So the next 5 games, I know you hear the cliche of take 1 game at a time, but we need points. And if in the next 5 games we haven't accumulated 7 points and looking around that 30 mark with 8 games to go, then I'm in the serious camp of it'll be Championship football next year. The games are running out. Games are running out.
And also, I think you've also got to look at the last 4 games, which I keep mentioning on here. You know, West Ham obviously is definitely a winnable game, but then you've got Newcastle, Man City, and Spurs all in your last 3 to 4 games. So Leeds need to be picking up points now.
We have to get them now. Yeah.
They really need to start picking up points now. And anybody who's coming in the chat and say, "Oh, it's okay, a point against Brighton and a point against what they've got to get." In all fairness, Brownie, I'm wanting 4 points out of the next 2. I'm looking at that and projecting.
I've got us down for 1, and anything more be a bonus.
For me, that would be damning for me. That it really would. One point out of the next 2. And I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way. I'm just saying.
None of us have got crystal balls. I don't see anything more with what I've been watching. Forest and Palace at home, back to back, in the space of 4 days, is massive.
Huge.
The way the league has gone and the way teams are, I mean, the bottom 9 teams are just as bad as each other for me. I mean, 6 points separating the bottom 9 teams in March is unheard of. No team is breaking away. And them 2 games back to back, the Forest game and the Palace game, if you win both them home games, and it's a massive if, then I do think you see a gap because teams aren't putting back to back wins together. Any team that goes and puts back to back wins together gets out of it.
Right.
Yeah, they do.
I think we have to beat Wolves. Again, we go back to this. It's away, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we go back to this sort of like, oh, it's a really difficult game. They're within that 6 points of the bottom slot. If we can't go away and beat Wolves in a season like this, where they're not particularly good, and neither are we, then we're not going to stay up.
I can see the game now. It'd be fine margins, just like it was in the League Cup. All these games are fine margins. Obviously, the Southampton game, we came out on top, but more often than not, in these games that are hanging by a thread, we've come out not on top, and we just need to turn that around. And
yeah,
like Gavin's spot on here as well.
He's right.
It just seems all of the we're in the game. We're in the game, but Everton, Villa, Fulham, you could even drag into that. Obviously, I know it was 2-0, but Forest, yet another one, and then with Chelsea, it just seems like we're in the game, and we have moments. We always have moments, but it's always the sucker punch from the other side. I mean, I've just had a quick look at the away Premier League form table, which obviously takes into account the last 6 performances, home and away.
We'll be bottom, 100%.
Leeds are bottom of the away form table, so that
I think we'll be bottom over the course of the season, mate. I can't think of anywhere where we've won. Liverpool, we won there. Other than that, I can't think of a win.
I mean, we have to. Teams that can't win away from home go down.
Away from home, mate, I can only remember winning at Liverpool. If you take Accrington Stanley out of the equation.
I'm trying to think if we actually won another game away from home.
That glorious night in Accrington.
I can remember we drew at Southampton. We've beaten Liverpool. Other than that in the league, mate, we drew at Newcastle.
We've only won 5 games, so yeah, you're probably right.
Right.
So the only game we've won away is Liverpool.
Bad. Who do we think steps up? Like in this lineup now, we need somebody to step up, right? Who do we think actually does it? Like,
we need another purple patch from Somerville. Right now, he went through that little purple patch. Mark, I don't know what you want us to do, mate. In a bit, mate. By the way, we're just talking. We're talking. What we literally. Do you want us to make up the away record? Make up the where we are in the form table? I don't know. It's this isn't us saying we're going to lose to Brighton, by the way, and we are going to go down. We're just talking facts at the minute with where Leeds are. We're not scoring enough goals.
This is the scary thing. We are that bad, and there's 3 teams below us.
Yeah.
So how bad have they been? With this bad this season, and I think it's worse than last year. And anybody who disagrees is entitled to their opinion. But this year has been far worse than last year. At least last year had glimpses of brilliance. We're 5 points behind 12th. How can we possibly be 5 points behind 12th? We could end this season finishing 12th or 13th.
It's just the league. The league is bizarre,
which is mental.
Guys, do you agree? Go on, Conor. Sorry.
I was saying, I do agree, Brownie. It is mental, but I feel, and I think we said it last season as well. These were always, me and you, how many times we have this conversation? We're only 3 points off. We're only 4 points off, but we are where we are for a reason. And we've been there for so long now. We haven't we? Really, the bottom 4, we've been there for so long now that it feels like we need, something needs to change. It's all well and good us being 3 points off Palace and 3 points off Forest. Well, let's drag them in. Let's get a win, and let's
I think they are in it. They are in it, and that is what I'm trying to say. I think I don't understand how they're in it, because when you read out stats like we've won 1 game away from home and we've scored 1 goal in our last 5 games. And the other thing I want to touch on is mentality. I mean, how can you go to Old Trafford and draw 2-2? How can you go to Anfield and win? How can you beat Chelsea at home and be 17th in the league?
I think our senior players, and I hate to. So I've seen a lot of comments now that are saying that the players don't care. I disagree. I've seen commitment from the players. I think what we've seen is youth, right? When you over-index youth and you're relying on Somerville 2021. Nyanto's 19. Aronson looks like a little boy. He's 22. I mean, you look to your senior players to set the standard and to keep standards high. And I have to say, I know I picked on Bamford for this. He obviously didn't play last match because he was injured again. But with Harrison, I don't doubt for a minute that these guys care. I think they care quite a bit. I don't think we have a lot of leaders in the side. I think and Liam Cooper's been out, right? So obviously he's a leader in the changing room. And I think we could talk about Tyler Adams, but this is his first year at the club, right? So I think we've lacked. So I would disagree with the comments that players don't care. I've never seen a lack of effort from these players. What I've seen is a lack of maturity from the youngsters who are throwing their hands up a little bit when things don't go their way. And a lack of, we need the senior players to step up. And the most senior players in our side are nowhere to be found, or just not actively sabotaging because they're not doing it on purpose. But some of the play from Jack and some of the play from Bamford, the fact that we can't rely on them to be fit either. It's hard. It's hard to stay up this way.
It's interesting seeing some of the comments because I agree. Watching games over the last 6 weeks has flipped. It's felt like when a team attacks, we're going to concede at any point, whereas over the last few weeks, it hasn't felt like that. Whereas before, it looked like we'd score 3 goals, but then concede 4. It's gone full circle. It now looks like we do look solid at the back, but it just doesn't look like we can score anymore.
Right.
It's gone completely full circle, and that's Leeds. That's just Leeds in itself, isn't it? Like, when could we ever have it marrying up? It'd be nice if it could marry up where we were solid at the back and score 3 goals. That'd be lovely. But the work on the training ground's clearly gone into the defensive work, and are players being more defensively minded? Are we starting deeper in transition? I don't know, but it just seems like now we seem a little bit more rigid at the back, and we've just lost a little bit of something up top. But that could have coincided with Rodrigo being out of the team, to be fair.
Would have been nice to have a manager in from Man United to run them through the paces and try to get a good offensive tune out of them. But instead, we had to wait with an interim manager until we finally got. How many more matches do we have left in the season to get this right?
14, is it?
No, I think we're on 13 now, mate.
Is it 13?
Yeah. 13.
Time's running out.
Games.
That's what I mean. If we can't go away and beat Wolves with 11 matches left, for me, that if we can go and do that, I don't care if the match is hard. Somebody needs to step up and get us a result. If we're able to do that, then I'll have some hope about us staying up. But if we can't do that, my hope is going to evaporate.
There's only Leicester in that bottom 9 who have scored more goals than Leeds. So these problems that we're having, the other teams are having them as well, and that is probably why everybody's still battling it out. We look really lacking in front of goal recently, but to then see the table and see that there's only Leicester scoring more goals, it isn't all doom and gloom, but that's purely because everybody else is just as bad.
ST never said Wolves was a joke. Never said that. I'm saying when you look at the table, right, and the points of separation between 12th and 20th, it's 6. It's a margin of 6, or it was yesterday. I haven't checked it this morning. If we can't go and win a match away against a team that's in a relegation struggle like us, we're not going to stay up.
What are your thoughts at the minute on set pieces, lads? We're seeing Everton take full advantage of them at the minute. Which isn't meaning that they're prime Barcelona, which someone said to me the other day. I'm just saying they're taking advantage of some of those situations.
I'll start with that, Conor, because it's a really good point, and this is kind of linked to what I was saying about you look at our forward players being lightweight. Look at our team at the weekend. Would you fancy Aronson in the air? No. Would you fancy Somerville? No. Would you fancy Jorginho? No. Would you fancy Firpo against a tall striker, tall centre-half? No. That leaves you with Werber and Koch and Ayling. Would you fancy Adams in the air? No. Harrison, would you fancy him picking up Tarkowski? No. Who's picking players up when your team's full of technically good players? But there's just there's no bully there. There's no bully. That's the right word.
But Brownie, do you think they've got to at least? I'm talking about attacking set pieces here. They've got to at least give themselves a chance by actually getting it into the box and beating the first man and not overhitting them out for a throw-in. Like they're not.
Which game was it where we started doing loads of short corners?
I don't know. That started happening.
There was a recent game where we started doing loads of short. And is there any wonder when there's only like 2 or 3 in the box that could actually go and win an header?
They started doing that though. Do you remember, Brownie? Like, with the exception of the Southampton and the Chelsea game, early in the season, our set pieces this season have been absolutely woeful.
I think they've been woeful for a few years. I'm not just going to. I know I pick fault at certain people, but the hitting the first man has been a problem for a while.
I think, yeah. Conor, how would you line us up for a set piece? I would say Mark Rocca's the best we have in terms of his delivery. I don't want to see.
But his delivery was awful as well. Against Fulham, it was awful.
I'll ask you, Conor. So the game at the Stamford Bridge at the weekend, you've got Fofana, you've got Koulibaly. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the other defender. You've got Loftus-Cheek, Kai Havertz. Who are you using to pick them up?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Of course, it's a good point. I think. I mean, I'm trying to think of many other set pieces they had, and I think that's probably quite a good thing. But it did almost look like, I don't know about you, I don't know what you saw on the ground, but it just felt like Fofana jumped and no Leeds player jumped. It just looked so easy. I mean, he got under McKennie, didn't he? Over McKennie, I should say. McKennie wasn't even off the ground. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, physically, and that's what you buy, isn't it, Brownie? You know, when you're in a transfer window, you buy players who are athletes, not only good footballers, but athletes, physically imposing, who are going to give you chances on set pieces. I just think at the minute, I know what you're saying, but we're not even giving ourselves a chance of it going in off Voba's arse or it going in off Robin Koch's kneecap and then it's defending for 90 minutes. It literally is us not even being. I mean, Nonto had one the other day where it bobbled twice before hitting the first man. You're thinking,
does it come back? I mean, Greenwood set pieces have been notably good, but he came on at the weekend and his first corner, he did the same thing.
He did.
I think it's just by comparison they've been notably good. It's just because we're so poor at them.
He came on and his first one, he hit the first man. And you just think, is it a confidence thing? Is it? I don't know what it is, but have they been told to hit that that front post area? I don't know. I'm not privy to tactical information in the changing room, but for them all to be doing the same thing, I don't know. Is it a tactic that we'll hit that front post and when it's nodded out, we'll pick up the second ball and go from there? I know that was a tactic under Bielsa because obviously our height was a problem. So once it got nodded out, we'd have a few players in that side where the corner was taken, so we'd then regain possession. But I think you're right. I think teams score so many goals from set pieces that just get it in the box. Let someone
Liam Cooper's our best weapon on set pieces, and he hasn't been playing. You know, well, I'm looking for something positive, guys. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it.
I mean, it's just an outpouring at the minute, isn't it? It just feels like we need it to turn around. Like as fans, you know, we're hurting at the minute. We need it to turn around. We need it to turn around this weekend, and then we need to, you know, I guess we do need to be positive about the next two, and let's move on to it. So, Brighton then. Absolutely flying under De Zerbi at the minute. We all thought that when Potter left, it was going to all. Well, I don't think anybody did because they're very, very well run. But yeah, we all knew that they were probably going to get it right. But they've definitely got it right, and they're actually scoring goals now. Solly March looks like Cristiano Ronaldo in his prime at the minute. Obviously, you've seen Mitoma as well, who they bought for 2.7 million. The Japanese lad who looks fantastic. Danny Welbeck seems to always do all right in that Brighton side. It's a bit odd, but it is what it is. It just seems like they've got it right down there. But obviously, the game this weekend. I mean, we played Brighton last season, didn't we? Got a point, and it was probably arguably a worse Leeds United side. But it's going to be a tough one, I think, lads. Obviously, they demolished West Ham at the weekend 4-0. Where are our heads at? Is it? I mean, do you know what? I was having a chat with my dad, and this is a nice little point as well. And I actually want to bring this up to you too. This was on our podcast earlier on the Patreon. My dad said to me, what would you do for this game? How would you set up for this game? Would you go for Brighton or would you set 10 men behind the ball and look to break? And I said, do you know what, Dad? Because I don't think we're good enough at the minute. I think 90% of games towards the back end of this season, we're going to have to put 10 men behind the ball and look for these counter-attacking moments. And I think against Brighton, who were so good on the ball, I think we've just got to stick 10 behind the ball and look for opportunities. I don't know what you think, Brownie.
It's difficult because if you give them enough ball and enough time to do that over 90 minutes, I think they will break you down. I think attack is the best form of defence for me. West Ham won 4-0, and then the following week went and got battered 4-0. Hopefully the same things happens here, and they've won 4-0, and the next weekend they come back down to earth with a bump.
Just
some
negative karma.
It is a difficult game, but Leeds at home, we should be, no matter who we're playing, we should be going to win the game, and I think over the next 6 games, 4 of them at home, and I think, like we've already alluded to, the away form is shocking. We've got to do the business at home. I think Ellen Road, like Goodison Park kept Everton up last year. I think Ellen Road's got to do the same for Leeds this year. I think we've got to be picking up wins at home. So I would go after them. I'd start fast. I'd go after them and try and shell shock them. We've picked up 4 points in the last 5 games. They've picked up 8. So obviously they're a better team. They're in better form. But I just think Ellen Road's got to be the key for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to say I thought the game plan we employed against Chelsea was effective. To start out allowing them some possession, being compact, difficult to break down, and then if we can weather the first 15 minutes trying to find our moments. The problem is if you're going to count on 3 or 4 chances in a match to get you the result you need to have good finishing. So I think that we could be a team that's in the worst trouble that has the best XG of any team in the Premiership. But I guess to Brownie's point, I think there has to be a balance between going after him. I just don't think that we're going to be able to do that effectively with the side we have without just picking our moments and trying to pick moments in transition. I think we have to. It seems like the manager wants to do that as well. Defend 10 behind the ball and
we're certainly due a win against them.
Well, Leeds says every team we need to show zero respect, and I get that to an extent, but that for me that's a big problem in the Premier League, and especially with the caliber of our players and the confidence level at the minute. If we just go aimlessly chasing after teams and do a high press and high intensity, that some teams have the ability to just be able to pop through you, and then they're in on goal, and then you 1-0, 2-0 down within 20 minutes and get this game over. So for me, I just think Leeds need to stay in the game, and maybe Brighton will become frustrated. Maybe we can start putting it on them towards the back end of the game. But I just think I would be a lot more conservative about this one. But I understand Ellen Road, and I'm not saying we wouldn't win the game. By the way, I'm thinking of 1-0. That's what I'm thinking, or worst case scenario, a 0-0. But I would be a little bit worried in going after them. I think for 90 minutes because I think they've got the ability.
On the flip side, though, we played conservative, let's say, against Southampton.
Yeah.
And it in the end it got us the 1-0 result. But was that us, or was that because Southampton are poor themselves? I mean, it's difficult. I mean, whichever way you do it, if you don't win, then we'll all say, "Oh, we should have done it the other way."
Yeah,
that's just the way football is. But we're due a win against them. I can't remember the last time we actually beat Brighton home or away. It just doesn't seem like we beat them. So we're due one. And it'd be bloody nice, good timing, because the rest of them have got some really difficult games. So it could be the weekend, fingers crossed, where we do put a little bit of daylight between us and the bottom 3 for once.
And I think KB's right as well. And it's not initially the starting point, because obviously he thinks a certain way, but stay tight and compact, play for the counter attack. We need to actually shoot instead of tippy tappy, and that's maybe where I will concede. And of course I'm going to concede anyway, because we do miss Rodrigo. But Rodrigo and Sinistera, what do? They get the ball and shoot. They shoot. Yeah. And we just don't have players in the side at the minute who seem capable, because the confidence is so low. It's almost like they have to walk the ball into the back of the net. Even Bamford at the minute, it just seems, at least with Rodrigo and Sinistera, when they're in the side, they don't care. They're not bothered. They'll just shoot.
It's spot on. And I mean, obviously, Click came to the end of his Leeds United career, but a Click from 3 years ago would get the ball 30, 35 yards out, and he would
have a shot.
He would pull the trigger. And I think we do miss that in that. And that's what I was saying a bit earlier about goals, where the goals coming from. If you look at our players, who is prepared to shoot, it feels a bit like Arsenal under Wenger without the quality, where they try to walk the ball into the net. That's how it feels like to me at the minute. it feels very much like that. Just have some shots, pull the trigger.
What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen?
We get into such good positions. And if that final ball is going to be poor, then just shoot. Just start shooting.
Because it does seem to feel like instead of, you don't really see many when Leeds are playing I feel, not enough of anyway, of the ball just missing the post, cracking efforts that are saved by the keeper. It always seems to be us overplaying and the ball, let's say, going out of play, or a player miskicks it and then the other player retrieves it. It's never just Leeds cutting through opponents and having great efforts on goal, fantastic saves by the keeper, all these instances which other teams seem to have because of shooting, deflections. Never happens deflected and in, does it? So yeah, I agree. I think Leeds
our top scorer is Rodrigo. Our top scorer is Rodrigo. He's not played in all the games, and our second top scorer was Somerville on 4 goals. That's an issue.
It says a lot.
4 goals, and they were all in consecutive games.
Yeah. Purple patch.
Is Patrick Bamford going to score in a Premier League match this season? And is he back? Is he back fit? I'm not taking the piss. I'm asking for real. Is he back fit?
Apparently he's supposed to be, but I've just seen another stat where Sinister is joint second as well, and he's been out for about 3 months this season, which says so much.
Yeah, and then you've got Monto on 2, Strike on 2,
Firpo on 2.
Firpo on 2.
It's an issue. It's an issue.
It is.
It's a massive issue.
Right, guys, we're going to get into predictions. Okay, so we'll go Brownie first this time. Brighton away, mate. Brighton at home, I should say. What you
Brighton at home. I don't think we'll get beat. Drawing on together, I'm going to go 1-1 or 2-2. 1-1. Go 1-1.
Yeah, 2-2 is a bit ambitious, and that means
we score. I was going to say 2-2, then I realised we can't score. So 1-1. Although saying that, Forest and Everton can't score, and they scored 4 between them, didn't they? But yeah, I'll go 1-1.
Yeah. So 2-0 to Brighton, 3-0 to Brighton, 0-0, 2-0 Brighton. Sorry, lads.
And we were the negative ones. We're the doom and gloomers, and then when it comes to putting the money where the mouth is, it's all 3-0 Brighton.
That's it. Start arguing in the chat with each other, not with us. We're the positive ones. Gabe, what are you saying, mate?
I hate to say it, but I do think it's going to be 2-0 Brighton. I just don't see where we score.
I'm sick of your negativity, man. It's just a constant.
I don't see where the goals are coming from. And Brighton are on really good form. They've gone to some really hostile away grounds and have taken some results. And I think that ultimately the players on the pitch will win matches, and I just don't see anybody scoring for us right now. I would hope to be proven wrong. But
I've just seen that 1-0 Melier, and I just remembered we had 2 shots on target at the weekend, and Melier was one of them.
Yeah, and that was the best chance, by the way. That was the best. I thought he was going to tuck it in.
Where we are.
Imagine Melier and Firpo, the last 2 to score in our last 5 or 6. Imagine us saying that at the start of the season. So what did you go for, Gabe? Sorry.
2-0 Brighton.
2-0. You said 2 or 10.
I thought you said 10.
Could be
10. Did you think I said 10?
I thought you said 10, yeah.
Could the Accrington prediction all over again. No, 2-0.
I'll say 1-1. I think it'll be 1-1. But that is positive for me. I don't think it'll be a high scoring game because I do agree. I think we've got better.
Who scores, Conor? Who do you think scores our goal?
Dunk goal.
Jorginho's going to get off the mark.
I can actually see a Brighton own goal, honestly. But no, I do think it's one of those situations where Leeds have definitely got better. Brighton might not be on the pomp. Who knows? Long journey up to Leeds, isn't it? Me just clutching at straws there. Not that they'll be getting a plane or anything, which will take an hour. But and who knows? But I think best case scenario 1-1. I think worst case scenario, maybe what Gabe said, maybe 2-0. But I think defensively we've got better. But the issue is going to be us going forward. I think it's going to be really, big. I imagine if it was a set piece that we scored from. Who knows?
But Big Mac McKenny rising above it.
There's a question in the comments about who's the top scorer from the bottom 9 clubs, and it's James Maddison. Well, Rodrigo, actually. But obviously Maddison for the rest of them.
Dow, I didn't say 10. I said 2-0.
No, he didn't. He said 10. He honestly said, he texted me actually before we started and said, say 10-0 Brighton.
Absolute nonsense. Do you think Jack keeps his place in the side, Connor?
Odd. Do I think he will? Yeah, I think he will keep his place. I don't think he should.
I think Somerville will come out.
Yeah, I do. I think Nonto will come in as Somerville.
Back in.
Yeah, he'll come in, and then you'll still get Jack looking up at the sky when he boots another ball up into the east stand or whatever. And oh no,
literally went towards the corner flag. His free kick the other day.
Yeah. Eyes rolled, grabs hold of his shorts, and looks towards the guy.
When's Tyler Roberts loan up? That could help us out.
I don't know. That's pretty much. We've got his pseudo, haven't we, in Greenwood? But yeah, no, imagine, just getting Tyler back, get them all back. We get Paveda back.
Crawley player on loan.
Elder Costa, I'm telling you, should never have been let go.
No, world class. Right, everyone, we're going to leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Listen, it is what it is at the minute. It's not great from a Leeds United standpoint, but let's hope it turns around. We'll be back next week with the debrief. Thank you so much for joining, and make sure you check on over to the Patreon account if you want to see some bonus content with me and my old man. And we will see you in a bit. Cheers.